Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show. Hi, I'm Paul. I'll be your host this evening. I'm a bit crook, so let's be honest. We're going to have a bit of a quick one this evening, I think. Joining me is Mr. Stephen Harris. How you doing?
Yes, good evening, Paul. Sorry about that. Just a few technical issues, but hey, always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the show, mate. I hope you get better soon, mate. You don't sound too well.
Oh, thank you. Just a sore throat and things. I've taken the old COVID test. It's not COVID, so that's good because that knocked me out a few months ago. And boy, oh boy, yeah, you do get knocked out when you get that one. Let's kick off with the news to sort of kick that's happened over the last week or so. The Blues apparently are trying to bring back Beauden Barrett for this season, but that looks like it's failed, and he's not actually allowed to play in the finals. There's some sort of rule around that players have to play for like 4 games before they're allowed to play in the finals. What would you think about shipping Beauden Barrett in at the last minute for the finals, Stephen? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, for me, not really. The article I actually saw just off stuff that it's understood he won't be considered for these finals. Super Rugby Pacific Tournament director Matt Barlow has confirmed Barrett, 123 Test veteran, hasn't met the stipulated requirements for dispensation for the finals. So eligibility-wise, he's been ruled out, whatever those stipulations are. I'm not 100% sure, but apparently in a statement to stuff Barlow said to Super Rugby's eligibility rules was to protect the integrity of the competition and ensure fairness to all teams. And I think that's a common sense decision at the end of the day, Paul.
Yeah, I don't think you should really be able to ship people in at the last minute, really. Look, let's be honest. Super Rugby generally doesn't have the cash to do it. I mean, you could see a top 14 team suddenly buy an entire team or 3 or 4 players. But Super Rugby doesn't have the cash to do that. But I do find it funny they keep using these bloody words of integrity and crap for these things. Integrity of the competition. Oh, give it a break. There are so many integrity issues with this competition that you just stop using high-fluting words and just say it ain't fair.
Yeah, that's exactly, and it ain't fair. You weren't in the competition from the start. You know, a completely different story if you were sort of brought in as, I don't know, you weren't playing in another competition and you were brought in as injury cover. I suppose that might be a different kettle of fish. But for me, if you tread down that path, you open up a can of worms, don't you, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. And as they do say, keeping some sort of integrity in the competition is a good idea. The other stuff that's happening is on news is kind of off the pitch. So this coming week, there's an EGM where there's a whole bunch of votes to go on about how they run rugby in New Zealand. So if you've not been following this, basically as part of the Silver Lake deal, or to get the players to sign off, New Zealand Rugby had to agree to have a review of how rugby was run, the administration side of it in New Zealand. That crowd came back with a bunch of recommendations. Initially, New Zealand Rugby went, well, thank you for those, but we don't like them. So we're going to change them. Hector says, what is this? We're talking about rugby, predominantly Super Rugby from a New Zealand point of view, Hector. So thank you for joining us this evening on the old YouTubes. So initially, New Zealand Rugby said, we like these, but we don't think they're perfect, so we're going to change them, even though we paid a lot of money for you guys to come in and tell us what to do. The New Zealand Rugby Players Association went, nah, no, go with the original. And the provinces also went, no, we don't like these at all. We're going to have a brand new set of proposals. And that was all lined up for an EGM this week, where the provincial unions basically vote on what rules will be there. The chairperson, is it, or not the COBF, the chairperson, she has come out and said that she will that they either go with the New Zealand backed proposals, which they've backpedaled and gone for the original proposals now, or she'll leave. So if the provincial unions vote for their own ones, they won't do it. And then last week, or this is the new news on this one, is the New Zealand Rugby Players Association have threatened to break away from New Zealand Rugby and run professional rugby themselves, which Okay, is an interesting one because the New Zealand Rugby has the rights to play international rugby, and that would mean that the players association would have to have New Zealand Rugby on board. But the New Zealand Rugby on board would then have just been voted in to do something different. So, kind of how that would work, I've got no idea, because the players wouldn't be allowed to play in international competitions that were sanctioned by World Rugby. And I think it would just lead to a big, messy standoff. I can't see how that one would work at all, to be honest with you. But it's a big threat. It's a big nuclear kind of bomb threat. Stephen, can you see that actually working, or is it just words?
Oh boy, listen, I think somewhere along the lines there has to be some compromise, because basically what the 6 provincial unions in question, and I understand it's North Harbour, Auckland, Bay of Plenty, Hawke's Bay, Wellington, and Canterbury are very much asking for, is they want at least 3 people with rugby who have had at least 3 years rugby experience to be on the board. Now that's pretty much the sticky point, but I suspect that initially when the initial report came back, they were all in agreement that change needs to happen. We can probably see that with the direction that the game is going at this stage. So we either carry on down a path of continuing down the same way, or else those 2 parties, the Rugby Players Association, headed by Rob Nichol, try and find a compromise. If they can't find a compromise, then it will take something absolutely drastic. One thing that we can't do in rugby, and I see Simon Hughes just says that he sides with the 6 provinces. The problem is, do we keep doing what we're doing? What's that saying? Doing the same thing and expecting a different result, because they are hemorrhaging a lot of money. I'm hearing it's upwards of 50 million a year with all these competitions that they've got at the moment. So any Silver Lake money that they had will dissipate very, very quickly. It's, for me, they need to find a solution. If they don't find a solution, and I suspect they won't, Paul, it's just going to be a case of here we go again, and it plays out in public, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, there's just to very quickly answer Hologram 2-Pack's question: does the Players Association represent just pro players or all players? The Players Association just represents professional players, and they are saying that New Zealand Rugby and the provinces will be left to manage the amateur players, and they will take the professional game separate. But the professional game would pay some money to the New Zealand Rugby to run the amateur game as well. So they're just basically saying that they want the professional game to be managed separately if the recommendations of the review aren't carried out, essentially. Now, one of the problems also we have in New Zealand is that we have the 14 provinces, I think it's 14, that run semi-pro teams, and then you've got the 5 Super Rugby teams on top of that. So you've got a lot of teams for a very small country. And they're like, well, look, you can't run that many fish. So there's duplication of effort and money and all these kind of things. Well, yes, there is. But also you have, so from a financial point of view, it doesn't add up. But from a quality point of view, what you actually have here is a season that works in that players aren't asked to play too many games, because you have a separate Super Rugby season is totally separate from internationals, unlike in the Northern Hemisphere where they get mixed up. And then you've got something for the non-international professional players to do, i.e. the NPC, whilst the international players are away. Whereas in the Northern Hemisphere, you then end up with a competition that has international players coming in and out of, whereas you have a separate. So from a player's point of view, actually, it's a good structure. They just question if the very, very top players, internationals, I don't think necessarily see that or agree with that. But from that's how I see it. I think it's a much better structure for players compared to the Northern Hemisphere structure. But from a financial point of view, there are just a lot of hands going into one bowl, which is the All Blacks. And the problem there is actually that for the last 20 years, New Zealand Rugby hasn't been trying to make, or hasn't been helping or focusing on making Super Rugby somehow semi self-funding, essentially, on that one.
Paul, I think there's a lot of layers here in New Zealand rugby, provincial rugby, or that conduit between club and school. So there's a heck of a lot at play that needs to be repaired. Listen, we've known for a long time that there was an injury a few years ago when they started televising secondary schools rugby. That was always going to be an issue, because what that created was a lot of academies where basically kids were pretty much jumping the line, not going to club rugby to cut their teeth on, but going straight to academies. Now, a classic example is a union like Auckland that's got a shed load of kids in academies, and they've got so many kids that they've ended up with a situation now in their high performance that they're actually trying to loan out players to other unions. I know that for a fact. That means the fact that they're actually loaning players out means that they're over budget. So many of the NPC unions have lived above their means. Listen, on the last 2 or 3 years, there's only been about 2 or 3 provinces that have ended up in the black, and still provinces will look for ideas. They put winning the NPC first, as opposed to looking at their own little backyard at the moment. And it grates me a little bit that there are 6 provinces out there that have decided, no, we've paid for a report which cost a lot of money. We were all in agreement. We all agreed with it. But now, all of a sudden, 6 have gone, maybe we're not so sure about it. We want our people on the board. But it's their people that have been on the board that sees the game and the predicament that it is at this very time. I mean, it's even North Harbour. I see North Harbour at the moment bringing in a first fight, Tane Edmund, the Waratahs first fight. For me, that's crazy, Paul. Where's your local players coming through? There's no promotion relegation in the Bunnings NPC. You either finish first or last, no matter what your budget is at the moment. And if you could start from the bottom, and I think where there is a little bit of where probably New Zealand rugby is probably complicit of in terms of what's happened. They could see this happening like an accident happening in front of them, but they did absolutely nothing about it. I really question how a lot of these budgets that are audited at the end of the year. Yeah, okay, maybe in some cases there's probably some third party payments made to these unions, but something is seriously wrong, even at PU level, Paul. So I for me think that's why there should be a change.
There's the historically of having rugby people running this rather than actual professional sports administrators has caused the problem that we're in today. At the end of the day, just again to answer some questions from the live chat there, Hector, are top amateur teams allowed to promote to Super Rugby League if they have financial backing, or is it set at the cap number? No, there is no promotional relegation anywhere within New Zealand rugby. There are some kind of promotion relegations potentially within some of the provincial unions at club level, but in regional rugby. But essentially, no, there is no promotional relegation anywhere in New Zealand rugby. Super Rugby teams are set. The provincial teams that take part in the NPC are set. The provincial teams that take part in the Heartland Cup or Heartland Championship, they're all set as well. And essentially, all the clubs in each area or province, new clubs can appear, but that's not happened for many years. Mainly, clubs are merging because participation is down and funding is down. So no, there is no promotion relegation, Hector. Hologram 2-pack, are the unions funded by New Zealand Rugby or their own revenue streams? A mixture of both, but they are reliant on New Zealand Rugby Union funding, and their votes put who is on the board. So so New Zealand Rugby can't do anything that the provinces don't want because the board will get voted off, and the provinces can't survive without New Zealand Rugby's funding. So they're both basically on a mutual suicide pact between the two of them in that one. Reviewer, can they afford to both run Super Rugby and the NPC? Surely it's one or the other in 15 years' time. No, they can't. I think, under the current financial model, no, they can't. So, which is the problem, and hence what they're trying to do is they're looking at basically what New Zealand Rugby wants the provincial unions to do is to just focus on the amateur side of the game participation and not high performance. And they want New Zealand Rugby wants to control high performance via the Super Rugby teams, essentially, and the provincial unions want to keep hold of the high performance side and the history around NPC. The problem is that a lot of unions won't move with the times. Some of them have moved a little bit and have been more forward thinking. Others, when they've got a forward thinking CEO in place, like North Harbour, he's ended up leaving after a few years because basically the Blazers won't let him change enough. So that's part of the part of that. But yeah, essentially, there's not enough money to go around, or there probably is actually, if you had the proper administration in place to actually generate some more money out of some of these teams. But there isn't. And even the people who said they bring more money in, i.e. Silver Lake, haven't been able to do it either. So that's been a bad thing. So anyway, what we will see, there has been. So what we have to wait to see is how that vote goes, and we'll have more news on that next year. Do international teams, i.e. the British and Irish Lions, still play amateur teams? No, they don't. They played last time. They played one combined Heartland Championship provincial team, which had semi-pro players in as their very first game after they got off the plane about 24 hours earlier. So they were all jet lagged. But that was the closest we got to them playing an amateur team there. And those guys are, I mean, whilst I say the semi-pro, they're pretty much full time playing club rugby, followed by the NPC. Yes, they do have to have a job as well, but because that doesn't pay well enough. But that's one. How many weeks are the All Blacks together? What the hotel and play? Look, that works. At the moment, don't mess with the All Blacks because that's the bit that's bringing cash in. If you actually reduce them and take money away from there and make them work as well, then it'll be a problem. Hector H, if the Heartland Championships is stopped, then they'll miss out on star players moving up through the ranks to each pro level. You say that, but actually, what you're seeing now is that players are going from school to an academy to provincial rugby, and they bypass to actually the NPC. It's rare now for players to go via the Heartland Championship into the NPC. Can you? I mean, one or two players maybe, Stephen, but not very many go that route.
Yeah, have to agree with you on all counts. Actually, Paul. Actually, it's one choice I will always want to keep the NPC. I don't care about Super Rugby. Simon, yeah, you're probably speaking for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people around the club scene who have no real passion for Super Rugby. I think they say that, but to be brutally honest, I can be like that sometimes. But when you do get a really good top end super game of rugby, like we did on the weekend with two really exciting games, I must admit, at the end of the day, they're just really two good games of rugby. If you know what I mean. I do believe there's a place for NPC rugby moving forward, but I think there has to be really big constraints in and around budgets, Paul, because they're obviously overspending. Some of the NPC unions are doing it better than others, and I know for a fact there are some that are looking for different revenue streams just to keep things up and running. But boy, my fear is I don't think the game can continue on that path. And for me, I've done a complete 360. If I had the opportunity to vote, I would definitely vote for proposal 1. I'd probably side a little bit with the Players Association. They're saying it needs a clean out pretty much everywhere. That actually might include people in New Zealand rugby as well, Paul, because at the end of the day, if you look at where the game's going, and look at the people that have been involved. It kind of reminds you of the Auckland City Council. As the Mayor of Auckland has basically said, there's a lot of people who have got great tenure in the Auckland City Council, and they've learned how to say no. Well, look where that's got Auckland City at this time.
Yeah, look, I'm obvious. I'm not sure how much changing the board is going to change. Is going to change things. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure how much this is just shuffling the chairs on the Titanic. But yeah, some serious change does need to happen. Dr. Rice says All Blacks are sucking money out of the game. The domestic game has been run down. No crowds. Now, look, I disagree with that. The All Blacks bring in the money, but I do agree that a lack of focus, that the New Zealand Rugby, by focusing purely on the All Blacks, has run down the domestic game. I don't think that's because the All Blacks have taken money out. I think it's because what New Zealand Rugby has done is it said we're going to solely concentrate on teams in black. Super Rugby teams, you've got to look after yourselves, and provincial unions, you've got to look after the NPC. And it's kind of like, well, no, you can't expect the provinces, which are very small very small groups, in all honesty, who only actually have actively run a professional rugby team for about 5 months of the year. The other 7 months of the year, they're running purely as an amateur and as participation. So you can't have a full setup that can properly promote the NPC that's only employed for 5 months a year. So that's when New Zealand Rugby needs to step in and provide that extra side of things. And also, says they were giving away tickets in Dunedin Stadium yesterday. They give away tickets every weekend, to be honest. Unfortunately, the focus for Super Rugby teams has been TV. It's not been fans. And eventually people look at a game and they see an empty stadium and they go, why am I watching something that no one's actually bothered to turn up for? Should I be interested in this? If you have a big crowd, then you'll be able to, then actually people will want to watch it on TV because they see it's something that people want to be at and want to be part of. Hector, is it because of cost and money that we've got low crowds? No, it's because the focus has been on TV for the past 20 years, and people have got used to sitting at home in the warmth of their armchair watching it on telly rather than turning up in the cold. And that actually needs to change. And we need to encourage and make the match day experience more, and actually advertise it and make it and promote it that they want to do. But anyway, as I said, I was going to try and get through a quick night tonight, and we've already gone through 20 minutes of this kind of stuff. So, guys, we're going to move on to the. So, Nocturne says professional players take 36% of the revenue, regardless of the profit. The model is not sustainable. The players are above their value. If you don't pay the players that much, then they're going to disappear overseas, and you're going to have no players.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So you've got to keep paying them, especially if New Zealand Rugby wants the All Blacks to still be their pinnacle, if you know what I mean. Paul, I know you want to get on to Super Rugby, but I just want touch on a couple of other new subjects as well. For a lot of us, the Japanese, a lot of those who follow the Japanese top 14. Richie Mo'unga, of course, picked up his 12th domestic title yesterday with the Toshiba Brave Lupus, who took out the final yesterday in a real exciting game, 24-20. But that was his 12th domestic title. He won 4 with Canterbury in the NPC, and of course he's won a whole truckload. That would make it what are we, about 7 with the Crusaders on the bounce, and of course now picking up this one with Toshiba Brave Lupus. So that's a pretty impressive record. So you can almost see why maybe Scott Robertson is trying to get him back, maybe for the All Blacks. But I would imagine the Canterbury Crusaders would be pretty rapt about that as well, Paul.
The reviewers say Japan's crowd have a record of 56,000. Wow, yeah, that's good.
I know, crazy, yeah. And listen, the other bit of news anyway, I wanted to just touch on it. Listen, I think there's some really great news to start the week. It seems as though fully fledged tours hang in the balance between the All Blacks and South Africa, and it's set to kick off in 2026. And a Back to the Future move, New Zealand Rugby Union and South African counterparts have appeared to have finally hammered out an agreement that will usher in the return to longer tours days gone by, with the South African newspaper reporting confirmation of the deal reached between the two unions. New Zealand Rugby Chief Executive Mark Robinson has spoken repeatedly this year about the keenness for both organised to revive longer tours. Now, that's a bit of exciting news, you've got to say. I think John O'Connor, our regular South African correspondent, would be absolutely rapt about it. But hey, from an old school point of view, somebody who enjoyed watching Springbok tours, I think that's really great news, Paul.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that works. As Simon says, the Nations League thing is supposed to start in 2026 as well. Chris Bailey says, will there be 2 Rugby Championship games and a third match test? I would imagine that's how you would do it. You would add an extra test match on, maybe a midweek game against a Super Rugby team as well, or against a baby box or a box barbarians kind of side. So I'd imagine you would add it. You would add it in as an extra test match around the Rugby Championship, which would be so that would be in the sort of August, September, October kind of window there. A bit like we have the extra Bledisloe game, or we used to have the extra Bledisloe Cup game against Australia as well. So along that side of things, so it sounds very logical to play one of the one of the URC sides, not the Super Rugby sides. You're quite right. URC sides over there, but the I was going to say the only point about that is the only answer we seem to have to not having enough money is to play more games, and the problem is the players are already playing as many games as they can play. Right, we're going to break players a lot more than we do now. So whilst yes, I agree, going back to the 3 tour tests and longer tests is great, and we love to see it. The problem, I think, actually is that we need another answer to funding other than let's play more games, because that's just not working, and it's what we've been doing for the past 25 years since professionalism started, essentially, or 25 plus years now, maybe getting towards 30 years. So there we go. Yep. But the answer just seems to be play more games, which doesn't work, I'm afraid. We should also mention that the Black Ferns beat the Wallaroos. Congratulations there. I didn't watch that. I say I'm not talking about women's game because I don't feel educated enough to do so. So hence, but good luck. But well done to them to winning that game. And Ross Filippo, the head coach of, or was the head coach, I think it's still the head coach of Waikato, has been assistant coach to Clayton McMillan at the Super Rugby level for the Chiefs. It looks like he's replacing Clayton McMillan as the Maori All Blacks coach as well. Quite when they get to play nowadays, I've got no idea, because the All Blacks 15 seems to have taken their slot in November, which I think is bullshit, put bluntly. So I think they probably play 1, maybe 2 games if they're lucky in July, and that's it.
Yes, they are. They're heading up to Japan. Of course, Northern Administrator Brad Tahara named as the New Zealand Māori manager, and he's just spent a bit of time up in Japan, just sourcing some, obviously, venues where the team's staying, training facilities, etc. So well done to Brad, somebody who's been around the club and provincial scene as their Northern manager.
But to me, in my mind, I think they should be touring in November as well, instead of the All Blacks 15. But there you go. But that's no one listens to me. Well, apart from you guys. So thank you very much, everyone who does listen on here. I mean, no one in positions of power listen to me from that point of view. Simon lets us know that the Asian Rugby Championship starts next week. Wow. So we'll see how that one goes. With still no official announcement on the qualifying for the next Rugby World Cup, that's really going to be part of it. Yep, you're quite right. I'd have to go back and remember who made the quarterfinals, because Japan missed out in the quarterfinals, didn't they, this year? So to Japan. Anyway, I would have to go back and look and see who is automatically, who's not automatically qualified for the next Rugby World Cup. My head just isn't in it tonight, as I say, on that one. Apparently, the Asian Rugby Championship games will be available on YouTube. So there you go. So the weekend then, we had the big clash of the round sort of kicked off the round with the Chiefs facing off against the Hurricanes in a game that the Chiefs came a lot closer than they deserved to on the balance of play. Hurricanes dominated the first half in particular, but with even though they even picked up a red card in that first half. Personally, I think that red card was a tad harsh because I thought he was bent over. I thought there was mitigation for the head clash, but I understand where the referee came from giving the yellow, and then as I say, that got upgraded off the pitch on that one. But that seemed to galvanise the Canes, and they went out to a 14-0 lead at half time. It could have been 17, but Geordie Barrett missed a long range penalty on the buzzer. But the Chiefs came out well in the second half. A couple of long range tries with Nawara going in, but Brett Cameron's boot managed to see the Hurricanes home with a couple of penalties in that second half. Ross says it should have been a draw. Last penalty was harsh. I can understand where you're coming from, but if you when you're going to tackle, you've got to go into tackle in a way that you don't fall on the ball. Yes, it was harsh, but that's what the rules are nowadays, I'm afraid. Your thoughts on the game, Stephen?
Yeah, just on that last penalty, that would have been a penalty whether it happened in the first minute inside somebody else's 22 or the halfway mark or wherever. I pretty much called it when it happened because I thought, listen, Paul Williams is having a good look at this, and I think he actually gave the player a little bit of an opportunity to try and roll away. Yes, he was trapped in there, but boy, we're watching players getting done for being trapped in a lot of games. In most cases, Paul Williams has actually been quite quick to penalise players. Agree about the tries, some spanking tries, especially that both the opening tries by the Hurricanes, Xavier Numia, who is in a purple patch in terms of his form. His scrummaging is that we've always known that he's great with ball in hand, but we're also seeing what an improved scrummager he is. And boy, wasn't it great to see a set piece try off a line out, so simply executed. They opened up the Chiefs close in, and they almost, you could say, they exploited the gap between Ratima and also Damien McKenzie as well. But listen, I think at the end of the day, that score may have flattered the Chiefs a little bit. It wasn't so much on the scoreboard, but I think there was a real big difference in terms of the way those two teams had actually played on the night. Actually, just on Paul Williams, I actually think he may have bottled a penalty just before that incident. The Hurricanes put on a very big scrum, and if you go back over the replay, the whistle went up to the mouth, and then he pulled it down, which basically says to me, "Oh no, I don't really want to pull that penalty, and pull the trigger." And I suspect it was the same with the Jacobson decision at the moment. Listen, big ups to the Hurricanes. You know, they're a sort of team, they've got a lot more resolve than they have in the past, Paul, and there were some outstanding individual performances that got them across the line.
Sure, they should never let the game get back to being evens. They should have had it put away, but well before then. In this one, there was a lot of kicks. I mean, the Chiefs 36 kicks in this game from hand, with the Hurricanes having 21 lineouts. That's a lot of lineouts in a game. But the Chiefs had 10 scrums, which suggests a whole bunch of handling errors by the Hurricanes. 19 turnovers by the Hurricanes, just 8 by the Chiefs. Yeah, if they hadn't had those turnovers, they'd have got the score higher. They just lacked that last bit that would have, that last ball that would have got the points on the board that the play really demanded. Moving on then to the Brumbies versus the Rebels. a comfortable win for the Brumbies in this one, 53 to 17 here. Already 34-3 at halftime, game well over. But the Brumbies not taking their foot off the throat, even though they had 3 yellow cards in that second half, 2 of them at the same time as well. So big defensive shift by the Brumbies as well to keep their lead in this one.
I was going to say, Paul, I think Stephen Larkham will be happy enough with the win, but I don't think he'd be very especially pleased with those 3 cards. They'll come up against better opposition than that once they hit the from quarterfinal onwards. And listen, I think again against a better team, maybe even a New Zealand team, they would get well and and truly punished. But what I'm actually enjoying about the Brumbies at the moment, a couple of performances of a couple of players who I think are pretty much playing their way into Joe Schmidt's plans. Is Tom Wright just seems to have taken those, just seems to be making good decisions these days, Paul, and just seemingly eliminating a lot of mistakes. And we've always known that Noah Lelasio, from the time that he was selected by Dave Rennie, was always a promising player. There seems to be a little bit more maturity about his game at the moment. So I've enjoyed watching those 2 play.
Yeah, we've said about him for a long time this year, that he really has matured into that 10 jersey. Tom Wright. I mean, do you have him or Callaway? I mean, there's going to be competition for that 15 jersey. Toole started off the year or the season with a bang, but it's gone a bit quiet. I think maybe people have got some tape on him now, actually deciding how to defend against him. So it'll be interesting to see if he does make how he goes. It comes finals time, and if he makes it into the Wallabies reckoning. So say he started off with a bang, but it does seem to be Tom Wright now who is the main try scorer, the main guy who's making those breaks in that back line for the Brumbies. So that definitely kept pressure on the top 2, on the Blues and the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes obviously having got the win, and we'll find out what happens to the Blues in a moment. Moving on then, the Moana Pacifica, one of those teams that people consistently keep saying, hey, we should be getting them out of this competition. Let's get rid of them. And yet they came into this weekend having already won 3 games, which is as many as they'd won in the 2 seasons previously combined. So clearly they're on an upward trajectory. Came into this one and up against the Waratahs, who have had a real poor season. 2 wins before this were both against the Crusaders, the only 2 wins they had. Moana started well with 2 tries in that first half, really showing some wonderful play out wide, and to lead 14-0. Another try and a penalty and another try saw them balloon out to 27-0 in this game nicely won. And then the Waratahs did get a couple of consolation scores late on, but really good to see Moana come into a game knowing that they could win it, and actually delivering upon that, and not seeing nerves overtake them.
Yeah, they took big advantage of a Waratahs front row who they're pretty much down to the bottom of the barrel in terms of their front rows. From what I believe, they've got upwards of 8 to 10 props unavailable that they could be using this year, and that front row initially of Mafilio, Morley and Pule completely laid the platform for Moana. And when you've got somebody like Lotu Inisi at number 8, who's charging around like a raging bull, creating havoc, giving them go forward all the time, that's a bit of a hard combination to beat. I thought once again Julian Savia was really good, really solid, and I like the play of the injection of Kyron Tomoe Folau at the back there, who's got a lot of pace. He signed with Tasman this year, so that's a really, really good pickup. On the Waratahs, boy, what can you say? Just some of their backline play, they look like they met in the car park Paul, they really did. They couldn't find any sort of connection that they would actually create a bit of go forward with some brilliant offloads, but inevitably actually lose the ball. And it's a shame because they've got some really good players. Jed Holloway has just impressed me no end, and a team that struggled throughout the year. We know what a very good player Jake Gordon is at a halfback, and to see somebody like Mark Nwanga Tawasi at fullback, we know the potential he's got. But I don't know, something almost tells me that he's switched off, Paul. Has he got an eye on his future and maybe another code this year?
Yeah, I mean, he's only got 2 games. He's only got one more game left after this, so maybe so on that one.
Yeah.
But if you told people that Moana Pacifica going into the last round had a chance of making the finals, they would, they having heard all the talk around them, people wouldn't believe you. But sure, it does mean they'll have to beat the Crusaders, and the Drua and the Force will both have to lose as well. So it does need a number of results to go their way.
Well,
but Moana could sneak into the finals still.
Well, I was going to say, if somebody had told you that they'd win more games than the Crusaders come the penultimate round, I would have thought you were on drugs or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, they've won 4 games compared to the Crusaders. They've won 3. But I'm going to say, regardless of how results go the weekend, going to be a tough ask to be the Crusaders side. Desperate to not just get a win, but hopefully getting another result go their way.
Yeah, exactly. But even so, look, it's been a growth season for Moana. They're going in the right direction. They've I say one win in their first season, 2 wins last season, 4 wins this year. They're going the right way. Sure, there have been some blowouts, absolutely, and they do have. Actually, no, the Rebels have given up 448 points this season. Moana Pacifica second with 442. Have given up the most points. So. Yeah, they've given up a lot of points defensively at times, but hey, they are moving. That's what I'm saying. Not bad for a team with no real home base. Yeah, look, whilst I think the administration of Moana Pacifica is unfortunately not delivering what the coaches and the players need, which is a home base and a home stadium. Now, whether that's in South Auckland, whether that's in Northland, whether that's in Tonga, whether it's in Samoa, don't really care. But they need a base that is their place and where they can actually build a fan base. Now, they've clearly not managed to do that in South Auckland, unfortunately. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where they go from here. But off the field, but on the field, things at least heading in the right direction. Right then, Crusaders versus Blues. Normally, you'd say this would be the clash of the round, but as I say, Chiefs Hurricanes being second versus fourth. Whereas this being first versus was it 11th or 10th? I can't remember. I can't remember if the Crusaders were 11th at the time or 10th. They're 10th now anyway. Was a different one. The one that the Blues obviously go in as favourites for, with the way that the Crusaders have been playing this year, and they got off to they got the first score on the board anyway through Harry Plummer, but the Crusaders came back and always kept themselves in touch. It was 7:15, heading towards half time. There's a penalty. Cody Taylor's awake. The Blues aren't. They think he's either going to kick to the corner or kick to or kick posts, probably kick posts. They switch off. He taps it quickly, spins it wide, and Fihaki is awake to what his skipper's going to do, and picks up the ball and scores it in the corner, with all the Blues looking around going, "What happened?" Those little moments of switching off like that are what cause you problems. The Blues only made 170 tackles to the Crusaders 212 in this one, so they did a lot less defending, but unfortunately they just weren't awake at the right times, and that told in the end. Yep.
That along with a very good scrum from the Crusaders. Listen, that's been their strong point despite a horrid season from the men from the Christchurch area, but they have one thing they've done. They've scrummed well all year. This time they were lucky to have all their 4 All Black props on deck, and boy, did they utilise those props to good effect. And once again, a real strong leadership game from Cody Taylor. I mean, it's only a second game back, and to sort of hit optimum within 2 games is pretty darn impressive, if you know what I mean. I also thought it was a really good performance from the loose forward trio of the Crusaders. I thought they shadowed a very good Blues trio. The likes of Akira Ioane started well, and I thought actually really probably one of the better games I've seen from Patrick Tuipulotu and also Ofa Tuangafasi. But unfortunately, listen, I thought there were times that the Blues actually threatened to actually run away with that game, especially when they went ahead by 15 points to 7. And once again, when AJ Lamb scored and they're up 12-22. But man, full credit to this Crusaders side. They rolled their sleeves up, and once again, other we spoke about the loose forward trio, but I thought out of the loose forward trio, Ethan Blackadder, very impressive. But so was Christian Leo Willie. He was impressive as well, and boy, that just gave a platform for the young Noel Hotham, who probably I thought played his best ever game in a Crusaders jersey. And we're just starting to see some really good things from this kid when he decides to run. He breaks the script and decides to run. I can see probably the rest of his team didn't know what he was doing at times, but boy, that's what we want from our halfbacks, don't we? We want the halfback to do something a little bit better, especially when those defenses are strong, because I thought there were times that the Blues defense was very, very strong, but I think that was because they were really just shifting man-on-man marking, and it just makes it really, really easy to defend against. Yep, the Blues, it's probably a lesson for them in and around how you handle game plans, Paul, because I think when they're very, very direct, they're a very hard team to stop. But I think if you can stay in a contest with them, I think you have a very good chance of actually knocking them over. Of course, the Hurricanes went very close a few weeks ago at Eden Park, but made some crucial errors at kickoff. Yeah, a few questions in and around the refereeing of was it Dolman who refereed James Dolman who refereed the game. I probably thought maybe the Crusaders were a little fortunate at times not to have received a yellow card, so it was a pretty much an irony when a yellow card did come around Stephen Perafeta. But listen, he looked like he was making no attempt to actually catch that, was he, Paul? It looked like he was trying to charge it down, but more or less slap it down. So I really had no problems with the yellow card at the time. But I thought,
no, I had no problem with that. But the only question I do have is, was that also a penalty try? Was there anyone else out there as cover? So they didn't even look at that, which they could have done. So so if anyone thinks that the Blues are harsh done by that yellow, they could very well have been a penalty try. So no, I don't think they were harsh done by that one, really. You're right. You're right about that. Scrums. The Blues had 2 scrums in this game and lost them both. Who was it? One of the people in our live chat pointed out also about the penalties. Yeah, Crusaders 8, Blues 14. Now 8 of those 4 of those by the Crusaders were in like the first 10 or 20 minutes, leading up to that. The first 10 minutes, because they had four penalties before Harry Plummer knocked over that one. So yes, they could have picked up a very early card for penalties on their own line. But but when we've made 4 penalties in the first 10 minutes, and you've got 4 more in the remaining 70, you've switched on very well. So well done on that one. How many were scrum penalties? Well, there were only 8 scrums all game. So that's not an excuse to all 14 at least there. So yes, the Crusaders keep themselves alive just with that one. But we'll come on to that when we do our picks for the last round. The Reds then against Western Force. I'll be honest, this one I switched off on. 59-13. the Reds well in control of this one. We all know that the Force are one of those teams that just can't travel at home. They're dangerous away from home, a lot less so. And this was 25-6 at half time, a couple of Donaldson penalties. And to say that actually that 59-13 was perhaps a flattering scoreline for the Force, because Kunzel scored the last score in this one. So the Reds ran rampant against a team that can't travel away from home. The 8 clean breaks in there, so breaking the line pretty much at will. 36 tackles missed by the Force, and the Force had to make over 200 tackles. So look, it was a long day at the office for the Force. Reds, running rampant, can't kick to hit the side of a barn. With 5 missed conversions, 10 points at least left out there. So this could have been higher, but hey, when you've got 59 points, who really cares on that one?
Yeah, that quite comprehensive. At the end of the day, I was disappointed with the Force. I at least thought they would make a game about it. But listen, I think the Reds were just too slick, and like you say, the score could have been bigger if they didn't nail 3 or 4 other opportunities.
Simon asked, "Is Cornflake okay?" Yep, Cornflake's fine. Just got held up today, and so couldn't make the show. So no, he's absolutely fine, folks. Don't worry about that.
Don't tell me they're sick of me already. Okay.
Tim Ryan, Junkyard Dog. Look, can commentators just lay off the nicknames? Actually, just say the actual players' names, so we know who they're talking about. Not everyone knows all the players' nicknames. So it's I wasn't a great fan of that, but hey, there we go. Final game of the round then, and another team that can't travel, the Fijian Drua. And Drua headed down to Dunedin to play the Highlanders under the roof, but that doesn't make it any warmer under that roof. And the Fijian and Drua struggled in this one. From memory, I think they had an early try disallowed, so I think they had an early opportunity, but after that, it was one-way traffic for the Highlanders. Really was their back 3 getting in on the show here. Nariki coming back and scoring a couple of tries. Ratamuti Neatkins also got in, scored. He was doing assists and scoring. Toto Anawai picks up another try as well. So I think all the tries actually were by the back 3 players. Broughton with the last try ruined that record that it was back 3 players only. So the Highlanders doing against the Drua what I guess the people thought the Drua might do against Highlanders by spinning it wide and letting their back 3 players run. But I guess it just shows again that there was Fiji and Drua are definitely a force at home. They still got to learn how to travel.
Oh, absolutely, and I think more importantly, I think they've got to learn. I think they came out with plenty of intent, and they actually had 2 try scoring chances in that first, I think, 10 minutes or so. And I think to get yourself into a game, you've got to nail those early chances to at least put some scoreboard pressure on the home side. But pretty much from the 18th minute mark, that was the Highlanders game, and that along with a little discipline from the Fijian team. Listen, I think that the Highlanders coaching staff, probably more pleasing than the scoreline will be the fact that they didn't let a team like the Drua cross their scoreline, I should say. And to me, that was a really impressive thing, especially when the game loosened up in that second half, 20 minutes to go, and they just kept repelling a lot of the Fijian Drua's chances. There were some really great individual performances as well. Kamosi Tamatama Nawai, ironically, a Fijian player, and Nareki. In fact, the back 3 all being Fijian players. Boy, you wondered what they'd look like in a Fijian and Drua side as well. I thought all that back 3 was very, very impressive. Tamatama Nawai especially on the over the ball. I think he's got the most turnovers of any player in the competition, maybe 14 plus, maybe 16. I think I'd heard. So just absolutely crazy. Other good performances. Gee, I like the look of of Fabian Holland. I know he's probably not available for All Black selection until next year, but boy, he puts himself about for a kid that's 2.08 meters. And yeah, if they were looking for size or a la Brody Retallick, this kid's got a fantastic work rate. Good to see also to see Pulau Whakatava coming back to a bit of form, and that's, to me, that was sort of the beauty of the weekend, seeing the likes of Hotham, Pulau Whakatava, especially with the likes of Roigard injured. And also Ethan de Groot, I don't know what he had before he went into that game, but it looked like he might have chopped on some red meat before he went out, because I think everything starts up front. And I thought the All Black loosehead prop had an outstanding game, convincing from the Highlanders, and that locks them into a position of strength going into the quarterfinals.
Well, yes, that does mean that they have to worry this weekend. So looking at the table now, the Blues and Hurricanes top the table there with 51 points each. The first, decider is what number of wins. They both got the same number of wins, and so points difference puts the Blues above the Hurricanes. The Brumbies, 3 points behind them in third place. So the Blues and Hurricanes going into this round knowing that if they lose and the Brumbies win, they miss out on that home semi-final. Possibly. So hence, so important. So these are important games. This is last week's one. Oh, I need to do a quick. It's halfway through, isn't it? A quick refresh of the of that tab. We'll update it. There we go. It's now up to date. But the top end doesn't change. So thank you, Dr. All right, for pointing that one out. So at that top end. It still is say that none of those three teams can sort of rest players and take it easy before the quarterfinals, because they want that home advantage come semi-final time. The Chiefs there, look, for them, they can actually rest players. For them, it doesn't really matter what the result of this game this weekend, because they're not going to get caught from behind, and they're not really going to get ahead of the other teams. The Reds, with that big win, again, they can afford to rest players if they want to. And the Highlanders and the Rebels also have secured themselves quarterfinal footy. The Highlanders will want to keep what momentum they've got, but they're up against the Hurricanes, so it's going to be tough. And the Rebels want to build some momentum after that game of the weekend. Then comes the fun part. Currently in 8th place, the Fijian and Drua are the ones that actually own are in the playoffs currently, and they do have a home game this coming weekend. The Force, Crusaders, and Moana Pacifica, all of them can jump up into that top 8 if results go their way. The Crusaders are in the worst position there because, as you can see, they're below the Western Force because they've won less games than the Force. Their points are mainly made up of bonus points, with 7 bonus points this year. Finally, the Waratahs at the bottom there, they can go on holiday now. It's all done and dusted for them. So that's how the table looks. But yeah, the Drua at the moment have the fate in their hand, and that's what the Force, Crusaders, and Moana would like. But at least those guys are still alive and kicking. Anything kind of interesting off the table there that you want to mention, Stephen, before we go into next week's games?
Yeah, no, listen, I suppose the interesting one for me is the very top of the table. Obviously, whoever, both those sides will be racing to probably pick up that bonus points, which means they might have to play a little bit more expensively, and we'll get onto this shortly. Of course, the Hurricanes play the Highlanders in the very first game, but for the Highlanders, I don't know if there's a lot to play for. Even if they win the game, they're gonna finish. Actually, they do have a lot to play for, because the Melbourne Rebels, when they'll jump over them. So yes, they will have to probably put their strongest combination out. So yeah, and I think we know the other one without sort of looking at those last games, and that's that Melbourne Rebels Fijian and Drua game. That's going to be a big one as well.
The Highlanders, look, whether the Highlanders travel to Canberra or they travel to either Auckland or Wellington, it's going to be a tough ask for them. So I think actually anyone who is 50-50, I would rest to make sure they're fit for the quarters. Yeah. Because whether you finish 6th or 7th isn't going to make that much difference for you, really, on that one.
Paul, there is one thing I will say about the finals setup. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. I suspect that talk's been around because everybody's thinking, oh my God, the Crusaders will make the 8th, and then basically somehow go deeper to the competition. I sense a little bit of resentment because if you think back to last year's competition, the Reds finished in 8th place, but not a hell of a lot said, if you know what I mean. At the end of the day, is that do people are now hating on this final setup because the 8th team shouldn't get there, or are they hating on it because they're scared that the Crusaders are going to be in there? Because in the last 2 or 3 years, we've not heard any talk about it. Like for me, if the Crusaders made it by some, and I think it will be a bit of a miracle if they make the 8, and I'll get to it now in our picks, and by some incredible reason they actually go all the way in this playoff format. Man, that for me, that's something to be celebrated. That they could look so bad at the beginning of the year with all their injuries. Yeah, sure, easy to say they got X amount of All Blacks, but we all know their confidence is an incredible thing. And when you kind of lose your confidence, it's hard to get it back. But what I also do like about this competition, listen, if we were talking a top 4 or top 6, a lot of these games would actually be meaningless.
Yeah.
But going into the last round, we've actually got games that we're really looking forward to.
Yeah, look, I mean, people have been anti this because look, I mean, the Fijian and Drua have won 5 games, lost 8. They're going to make the finals. Same for the Melbourne Rebels. People with losing records in the finals were like, it should only be teams with winning records. If you say that, only the top 5 go in. So look, I mean, it is what it is. Look, it's done there. It keeps all the games meaningful right the way towards the end. But B, it also makes sure that there's a team from every single country pretty much in there, i.e. one from Australia is kind of in there as well as a team from New Zealand. So hence it's also that point of view as well. So look, it is what it is. Is it perfect? Probably not, but we all knew what it was coming into the season. All the teams did as well, and you play by the rules. They are what they are. So let's look forward to next week then. First up then, the Crusaders know what they've got to do. They've got to get themselves a bonus point win, essentially, up against the Moana Pacifica in this one. Moana have won more games this season than the Crusaders. So I'm a little bit surprised. Well, maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't be. But on the old picking site, it's 95% Crusaders, 5% Moana Pacifica is what the people think. I'm a bit more surprised by the TAB. The TAB are $1.03 for the Crusaders, $10 for Moana Pacifica. That is hellishly long odds for Moana Pacifica, considering they've won more games than the Crusaders have. Now, I do think the Crusaders will win, but I don't think they're $1.03 to $10 for Moana.
Yep, I have to agree with you, Paul. But at the end of the day, I'm probably still going to go to the Crusaders. They've got a heck of a lot to play for. I think this Moana Pacifica team will show some ticker for a good 40 or 50 minutes. But I just suspect too much to play for this Crusaders. And regardless of how the weekend pans out, I think they want to lead this competition on a high note, not just for themselves, their coaching staff, but also their supporters.
Yeah, I'm going to put $1 on Moana because $10, hey, it's worth it just in case. But Next up, then, the Waratahs versus the Reds. So the Waratahs, they've won 2 games all season up against a team that's in 5th place. And the Waratahs are $4.40. Moana at 10. And the reviewer says that Moana don't travel well against New Zealand teams on the road. Sure they don't. But still, to be $10 against a team that you've won more games against, that's just... those are the longest odds out of any team all weekend. And I do not think they are the most... they're the least likely to win. I think there are other teams that are less likely to win than they are. I think those odds are wild there. The Waratahs only won 2 games. I say Oliver Graham says put your money on them. I am. I'm going to put $1. Not much. I'm not going to put the house on them. I'm not saying I think they're going to win. I think they're going to lose. But I just don't think. I think the chances of them winning are better than $10. The Waratahs versus Reds. Then look, I mean, Waratahs only won 2 games all season. The Reds have a winning record. I mean, they've won 7, lost 6. You've got to go for the Reds here. The fact that the Reds are longer odds than the Crusaders does my head in. But yeah, yes, the Reds might rest some players because there's nothing much in it for them this weekend. But I still can't see them. I still can't see them losing this one, Stephen.
No, not can I. I think the Reds will be too strong. They'll want to take a little bit of form into particularly these finals. Look, it's a good chance they're probably going to play the Chiefs if results sort of go their way. They can't be caught where they are. They could possibly drop their form a bit. Will the likes of their coach Les Kiss decide to maybe rest a few players? Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think you need to take form into the quarterfinals, Paul.
I think you might do, but anyone who's a 50-50 kind of injury-wise, you might rest them as opposed to play them in this one to make sure they're fit for the quarters. Those are the players I would rest. Similar thing for the Rebels. Rebels travel to Fiji. Now the Fijian and Drua clearly cannot rest any players. They have to win this game. They don't need a bonus point. They just have to win it. So see them knocking over threes. See them playing percentage rugby here to a certain degree within their structures. But the Drua $1.18, and the Crusaders are shorter odds than the Drua. Anyway. But yeah, to me that's a Fijian a Drua win all day. The Rebels, they've got nothing to gain, nothing to lose from this one. They're going to end up 7th, maybe 8th, if they give up a bonus point. So again, yes, I would like some form, because boy oh boy, trying to figure out what their form is coming in to, because obviously they lost bad last weekend, and they're on a run of 5 losses at the moment for the Rebels. So they have been sliding down the table rather rapidly, but still they made it into the finals. So they'll want something to take out of this one if they can.
That would be. I was going to say that would be an upset for me of epic proportions. They'd be celebrating long and hard down in Christchurch if that eventuates Paul. But listen, I suspect Fijian and Drua will cement their place in the finals, and that will probably see the end of the Crusaders in 2024.
Yep. Then we've got the Hurricanes versus the Highlanders. The Highlanders were very happy that they actually secured finals rugby last weekend, because boy oh boy, the Hurricanes are looking for a bonus point win here. A, to put pressure on the Blues against the Chiefs, and B, to try and get that home final if they can. So Hurricanes all day long on this one. I think they're going to put out their full strength team here, and realize that they have to do that for 5 weeks on the bounce, or 4 weeks on the bounce.
Yeah, there's just so much to play for, isn't there, Paul? And I'm really enjoying the way that the Hurricanes are playing at the moment. Listen, there's really great connection between their inside backs. Jamie Cameron playing some wonderful rugby at the moment, and of course both Barrett and Proctor seem to be putting a good combination together. I'll be curious to see if Ruben Love starts in this game. Looked like he took a little bit of a knock in that game against the Chiefs on Friday night. Was hobbling a little bit. So I wonder if they may or may not risk him going into this game. But yeah, all to play for. I mean, to say if the Hurricanes do pick up a bonus point win, boy, don't that put pressure on the Blues in the next game we're going to cover.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Chiefs have got nothing to play for. Even if they win this with a bonus point, they get to 48 points, which is the same as the Brumbies. If the Brumbies lose, look, the tiebreakers are most wins, points difference, most tries difference, coin toss. The Brumbies are 11 wins. The Chiefs can only get 10 wins. The Chiefs cannot get above the Brumbies. So there's nothing in it for the Chiefs. So again, the Chiefs, a bit like the Reds, Highlanders, and Rebels, they can rest players. They can afford to rest players this weekend. Will they want to in a kind of Bombay's derby? No, they're not going to want to. But anybody who's carrying an injury, again, they might go, you know what? Actually, I'm going to sit you out a week to get this injury cleared up because I need you for the quarterfinals on this one. So, but yeah, the Blues at home should be too much for the Chiefs. But the Chiefs hang in well. We saw that last weekend. Probably with a big crowd. I hope so. This is the kind of game that should be getting big crowds. This is the kind of game that Eden Park should be a sellout for. Let's be honest. Hamilton and Auckland have got to be closer than Sydney and Canberra, surely. So these are the closest two teams in the competition. Actually, sorry, that's not true because Moana Pacifica's there. But yeah, for a rivalry, this one should be a sellout. But yeah, so Blues all day for me with that one. They're at $1.50, which makes this one the the next game is going to be the closest one as far as the odds go. The Chiefs at $2.45. I'd rather put money on Moana at $10 than the Chiefs at $2.45, to be honest. Yes, I'm still going on about that. And you're backing the Blues, I assume, Steve?
Yes, yeah, I will go for the Blues, but I'm picking a much improved performance by the Chiefs. Listen, they want to go into this game, their last game, with a bit of form because it's probably likely they're going to play the Reds. Now, the Reds, when they've gone to Hamilton in the past, have actually performed reasonably well. So if that's how the cards end up laying, that is not going to be an easy game. And I don't think Clayton McMillan would be that impressed by their performance last Friday. So,
no.
Yeah, be improved from the Chiefs, but I'm picking the Blues.
And final one is the Force hosting the Brumbies. Ooh.
Well, the good thing for both of these two teams, they'll both know exactly what they'll have to do come the end of the weekend, or they could be out of it all. They could possibly be out of it altogether unless the Crusaders win and the Drua lose, which I would imagine. Does that keep the Force still in the reckoning?
As long as as long as the Drua lose, the Force is still in it.
Well, there you go. There's still an outside chance, because if they could level up with the Crusaders, and they're going to need a bonus point win against the Brumbies. But there's also the opportunity for the Brumbies if results go their way. For example, if both the Blues and the Hurricanes lose, it's quite possible that the Brumbies could have a lot to play for as well. But like I say, these two teams both know exactly what they have to do. You know what? I'm going to pick an upset in this game. Force have been hard. I'm going to pick an upset. I know probably there's those out there who are thinking that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Force. They are paying $2.25, and the Brumbies paying $1.60. So there's not really a huge variance between those two teams.
No, there isn't. And look, the reviewer says he's picked the Force already. Hologram 2-pack says the odd makers are giving Force a real chance. And the reviewer points out, look, 4 home wins in a row for the Force on this one. So no, the people in the chat are actually thinking you're in the money here. You're making the right choice going with the Force. And this is the kind of one I would pick sometimes as an upset. I think the Brumbies are on a bit of a roll. They know that they're not going to be able to change. I mean, they're on. They've won all their last 5 games. They're not going to be able to change their lineup based on what the previous 2 results are. So it's going to be a full strength team, whatever. Right? They're rolling out a full strength team, knowing that next week they've got someone like the Rebels at home. They can rest players next week if they need to join the quarterfinals rather than this one. They'd much rather get a home semi-final than. So I think you're going to see a full strength Brumbies team here, and I think yes that they will have too much for the Force in this one. But normally, if this was round 7, round 8, I'd probably go with the Force, to be honest. But because this is round 15, and I think and it's very focused as to what's on the line, I'm going with the Brumbies on this one, if that makes sense to everybody. Right then, I'm going to lock those picks in, and then I'll do my multi later. And Stephen's dropping in and dropping out, and I think it's time for me to drop out and get some sleep. So, thank you very much, Stephen, for joining me. We'll have you back.
No, not a problem. Look after yourself, and for those who maybe enjoyed my last picks, may the Force be with you.
Did you see my? I see. I've got with my I've got a Star Wars mug. So next week, obviously, we'll have 4 teams. It will be over for them. So what we will be doing is we'll be giving them a review as to how we think their seasons have gone compared to what the expectations were going in to the season. Obviously, we'll review the last round of games and preview the quarter finals. Don't forget, after the finals are all over, then we'll be getting into picking our. Actually, I need to check when Razor picks his All Blacks team, because obviously we need to pick ours, or All Black squad, because we need to pick ours before he does his. So we will. That'll be over the next few weeks as well, folks. Cornflake and I did it halfway through the season, so it'll be interesting to see how it's changed over the second half of the season, and which players have kind of improved their lot or have kind of moved down the pecking order. But thank you very much, Stephen, and we'll be having you definitely back during the playoffs or during the finals as we go as we ramp up the heat and get the players off the bench ourselves.